boy, I can't wait until Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out. Never gonna happen. Visa and Mastercard are not going to allow Grand Theft Auto's target demographic, little children, to buy Grand Theft Auto. They're already cracking down on Grand Theft Auto Online. They're already stopping you from stealing mommy's credit card and buying shark cards. The beginning of the end is here. Children will not be allowed to play Grand Theft Auto. And with that in mind, the entire core demographic for this children's video game franchise has just completely and utterly imploded. Grand Theft Auto 6 will not be successful. It will fail. It will not do well if Visa and MasterCard have their way and they crack down on pornographic content, if they crack down on violent content, if they stop Grand Theft Auto from reaching its target demographic of people in preschools. If this happens, Grand Theft Auto will never recover. People will not grow up nostalgic for the brand. They will not spend their 20s and 30s yearning to go back to the streets of Los Santos, just mindlessly mashing the square button to beat up prostitutes on the street. People are going to have to move on with their lives. They're going to have to work real jobs. They're going to have to play better games. They're going to have to develop more fulfilling hobbies, a real skill set. No longer will you be allowed to sit in the Korova milk bar drinking liquor laced with milk to get around the fact that you're a minor and aren't legally allowed to drink. Okay? This is the end for Grand Theft Auto. And by extension, the end of the mature games for mature gamers mindset in general, because without porn games, PC gaming won't remain relevant. Alternative pay fronts won't remain relevant. Alternate stores won't be relevant. Steam won't be competitive. Steam won't be seen as being more adult than the other platforms because it won't be allowed to sell adult content. This is the beginning of the end of Xbox, PlayStation, or XP. Actually, no, not the beginning. We're in the middle of the decline now. When they're straight up banning content to try and control your actions, because you guys are man-children. The fact of the matter is, instead of growing up and getting real jobs, you have people like Review Tech USA, like Video Game Lover 58, like, Darkside Phil, who just kind of sit around their houses just yearning for the day, oh man, I can't wait to play Grand Theft Auto with the radio off so I can stream it and get lots of money without getting copyright struck. You just know that's the real reason so many people are excited for Grand Theft Auto 6. It has nothing to do with the game being fun or being a fan of the brand, the characters, the world, the settings, the plot lines, the evolution of Grand Theft Auto, because let's be real, there has been no evolution for this series. It's not because Grand Theft Auto is some spectacular, amazing series. Grand Theft Auto is worshipped because a lot of influencers and a lot of media people know they're going to make a ton of money covering it. So if we're in this position now where Visa and MasterCard are seriously taking steps to prevent this game from getting in the hands of children who should not be allowed to play it under any circumstances. Let's forget this for a minute. Because the cope has always been that the parents shouldn't allow them to. No. It shouldn't be allowed to be played by children in general. Right? And I think if you were a genuine fan of the series, you would understand how, children being part of the target demographic has casualized the experience. It's trivialized the experience. It has, kept the franchise from growing and appealing more to an adult fan base. The fact of the matter is, Grand Theft Auto's high sales numbers among little children has been a massive boat anchor around this series' development and growth as a franchise, because the games are not becoming more complicated. They are not getting better writers on board. They are not becoming more elaborate and appealing more to adult sensibilities. It is very, very immature in that sense, where people think that they are going to be able to just endlessly consume this content forever, when in reality, its impact on society has been felt throughout all generations. Like people love to blame the schools or the parents for all this, like all the chaos that's going on in the schools and on the streets with kids today. But like, what's actually happening is that they're all playing Grand Theft Auto. They're all becoming violent and unhinged because of GTA. And there is this very, very strong unwillingness from the general gaming community to acknowledge that this is the case. Everybody wants to blame other factors. They always want to blame, like, I don't know, like gangs or like certain subgroups in like communities. But like the reality is, people are picking up on this stuff through GTA. They are introduced to drug use through GTA. They're introduced to the criminal world through GTA, right? This is a gateway into the criminal underworld. Like, this video game franchise glamorizes criminals and enables them and makes them out to be something more than people who belong in prison, away from like working productive people. And this is hopefully going to be the first step to get Grand Theft Auto out of our children's PlayStations, right? This should be the first major step to, kind of fix this problem with the rating system, to get kids to stop consuming this kind of content, to get them focused on their personal lives, their careers, their education, their families, getting them away from this boring, degenerate hellhole that never should have been given to them to begin with, right? Grand Theft Auto should be banned, honestly. I'm sick of hearing about it. I'm sick of hearing people talk about it. I'm sick of people like, trying to say that this franchise is cutting edge and remarkable. Straight up having it banned, I think, will be a great major step in allowing Xbox and PlayStation to completely collapse, and for us to kind of move on with our lives and start talking about real video games. Games like Donkey Kong Bonanza, games like The Adventures of Elliot, games like Monster Hunter Stories 3, right? All of which are way better than anything else GTA has accomplished in its entire history. But good luck getting anybody to ever acknowledge that. Grand Theft Auto is not going anywhere until we make it go away. And that is something that we really do need to talk about as the gaming crash continues and we continue to see games become more and more degenerate, more and more unhinged, and more reprehensible. And most of all, most importantly of all, none of them are really all that fun to play.